Moco was supposed to be Supercell's next multi-billion-dollar hit, and instead, the game has fallen into irrelevancy. So, what happened? How could a game with so much hype completely fall under the radar? Well, to truly understand how this happened, let me take you back to where it all started. On October 11th, 2023, Moco began its first ever beta test, and the game was by far Supercell's biggest risk yet. The game featured an all-new art style, and unlike their previous titles, this game focused on PvE rather than PvP combat. During its first beta, the game was pretty rudimentary. You'd hunt monsters, collect materials, and occasionally blueprints. Once you had a blueprint, you could head over to your 3D printer and craft the weapon. Once it was made, you could then equip it permanently. During this beta, each world had different blueprints and other items to collect. And unlike recent Supercell game betas, Squadbusters, this one was met with instant hype, and had content creators like Kairos hopping onto the game. Sadly though, and this beta ended on November 6th. To commemorate all those who played during this time, an exclusive Discord role called OG Hunter was given out to the players. And then, there was silence. It wasn't until February 6th, 3 months after the beta, that Moco would finally release a statement. They told everyone not to expect another beta test for a while, as they didn't believe the game was ready. They also announced a ton of other changes regarding content, monsters, skins, you get the idea. Then, over the next year, they'd release a few KPIs regarding their progress on the game. These mostly consisted of a few behind-the-scenes images. After a year had passed, people began to wonder what the future held. Was the game ever going to arrive? Of course it would! And on March 18th, 2025, the game had a global launch. See how that's in quotes? That's because unlike most launches, this one was exclusive. And to play, you would need to get access to a really rare invite code, either from the developers or content creators. This system built up massive hype, as being able to play the game felt way more exclusive than your standard mobile games. Then, shortly after, there was an incident where the developers accidentally wiped roughly 3,000 players' data, but that was quickly dealt with. Then, on March 26th, the player base got to vote on what the cat's name should be. Say hi to Nico! Then, on April 14th, Moco made its most controversial decision yet. They decided to remove the Squid Blades' invisibility. All that the Squid Blades had left was their dash. The Squid Blades were gone, and they were now the Jaded Blades. This whole controversy started because of one game mode that, while fun, was proving to be a nightmare for balancing. And that was because at the time, Moco was trying to save its PvP system. While that game mode wasn't particularly popular, Squid Blades' permanent invisibility made them the most broken weapon possible in that mode. Moco PvP was a team-based system, where you'd race around the map and hunt down monsters. The stronger the monster, the more points you'd get, and after time was up, the team with the most points would win. But defeating other players would cause them to drop their points. This is why the Squid Blades were so broken. Not only could they dash, but they could go invisibility permanently, making it super easy to hunt someone down. And unless they were running something like Snow Globe and got lucky, they weren't going to find you, unless they were trying to. After that, things went back to normal. And then on June 3rd, we received the first tease for Chapter 2. This teaser was centered around cats, and it was later revealed to be the theme of the new update. Then on June 6th, we received the first ever Moco Talk, later to be named Mocoms. This video announced all the new weapons, gear, and monsters. Then almost a week later, on June 17th, the update was finally released. Everyone was super excited and eager to hunt some new monsters. But Chapter 2 had some massive problems. Leaderboards were gone, meaning no one had any idea who was actually the best hunters. They didn't reset old quest XP, basically preventing veteran hunters from progressing. And then on top of all of that, smart rates, along with all the progression rates, were nerfed. Then, after all that, players had to deal with the removal of their elite levels, and that stung so bad. Besides all these new issues, the reset of elite levels alone caused many to just quit the game overnight. Now, this era did have some positives, like the new weapons being pretty fun and the skins being super cool. But monetization features alone really aren't enough to keep a game going, and without the launch hype, the game slowly started to lose its player base. People began to complain about optimization, and many started to leave the game. Moco's rating also dropped from a 4.8 to a 3.9 on the Play Store, which is what it's at today. After all that, you'd think the developers implement some massive change to save everything, but instead, all we got was silence. No teaser for Chapter 3, and it wasn't until November 15th, nearly 6 months after Chapter 2's release, that Neo Moco would be announced. This marked a paradigm shift in the game's development, as the devs decided that rather than trying to fix every little issue over the next few years, they instead wanted to completely overhaul the game. They believed it'd be more effective to just restart development. This update, called Neo Moco, was also announced to be released sometime in the first quarter of 2026. The community was excited, and while everyone was sad that this era of Moco was over, people were definitely eager to see what the future had in store. It wasn't until February 17th when Joao let everyone know that Neo Moco tragically wouldn't be arriving until sometime in quarter 2. And even worse, he gave it only a 51% chance of releasing before the summer. All hope seemed lost, and everyone was wondering when and if this update would ever arrive. But then, on May 17th, Moco posted this image, and if you look closely in the bottom right corner, there was a date, May 19th, 2026. And on that Tuesday, everything changed. Neo Moco was here, and it brought classes, weapon sprint, upgrade cores, and tragically, the removal of PvP. This update was then released 2 days later on the 21st of May. On that day, everyone returned to Moco, with many new players eager to try it out. It received mixed opinions, but most could agree that the new structure was way more healthy for the long term. The new progression loop was simple: defeat monsters, earn XP, level up, and earn rewards. Monsters could also drop these all-new upgrade cores, which were used in the all-new weapon upgrade system. Season levels still reset, but in this new version, they at least didn't feel as useless, as your all-time or career level is shown off in your player profile. They also added the serious hunter streak and perks. But the game was far from perfect. Many commonly requested features, such as manual aiming, didn't make the cut. And even worse, Moco scrapped its lore to almost entirety. In the original game, as you completed quests, you get to talk to Luna, Jax, and Manny about the world around you and how chaos energy worked. But in Neo, that's just gone. And in my opinion, the lore made the game feel immersive, and without it, Moco is slowly starting to turn to more of an average mobile game. When Brawl Stars made lore, they embraced it, and it opened up so many possibilities, but Moco instead almost seems to be avoiding it. This update also lost us something else: PvP combat. Moco has made many changes to weapons to try and make them easier to balance, and while it seems to have worked, without player-to-player modes, it's becoming harder to take the game itself seriously. While the game is still very fun, these changes make the game feel more casual, and it forces the game away from having a real esports scene, besides for Rift speedrunning, which, let's be honest, most people aren't super excited by, or at least to watch. As you can't aim attacks, the devs instead chose to make skill expression be in the form of memorizing enemy animations. But this means that there is no way to truly target an enemy, and if Moco ever wants to have an esports scene, that would have to change, as the current system feels very generic and simple. In the end, Moco has finally fixed its foundation, and they found an approach that increases the game's longevity. However, in doing so, they stripped the game away from its lore and its player-versus-player elements, making it feel closer and closer to just another mobile game. Moco's launch succeeded because it was unique. It felt different, and there was no other game like it. Moco is one of my favorite games ever, and that's why I'm so heartbroken by some of these changes, because Neo Moco is still super fun, but all of the reasons that made me love the game are just gone. But hey, what are your thoughts?